Well, I think the novel had been shown to quite a few directors, and everyone is. Well, what I heard was it was really passed by everyone, saying it was unfilmable. So I thought, oh, I'll go do that. But no, it actually came through my. It was the one time. Mainly, I just meet people or book and I read stuff, or I've done a bit. I'm working in original ideas. But this was sent to my agent, who it was lovely. She's passed away recently, Jenny Casarotto, and she was amazing. And I just read it and I was like, I think I was in about 3 chapters in. I was like, I want to do this. And then she told me, she said, oh, everyone's passed the BBC passed a guy I loved called David Thompson, who was fond of my work and stuff, and we'd made Ratcatcher and stuff together. Well, he was involved in that, and they passed because he said everyone was scared of it, and I said, well, he likes my work, why don't we go back to the BBC? And then I went back and went, I don't like the book, but I like you, so let's see how it goes. And then it was like probably, it was really it was quite hard because it's not a particularly visual book. It's written in letters. Is that word I always say wrong? Episcopal. Well, you know what I mean, right? So, and it just was, I had to sort of really think how am I going to approach this, and so I wrote quite a long script at first. Lionel Shiver, who wrote the novel, she wanted to see drafts, but I was like, not yet. And so I don't think she ever saw a draft at the end. I think I just kept putting it off. So anyway, my dad died while I was writing it, and he was playing the crossword. He had asbestos scarring in his lung because he worked in the shipyards, and all the men died at the same age. But my dad was like so like. He was playing crosswords like a couple of days before he did a lot of crosswords and puzzles, and he was driving like 3 days before. So I think he just thought, I'm not going to die, and I was so in denial, and it was just really weird. I just literally just died, and I got this phone call from a company called Summit who said, we want to make it, and you can have whoever you want in it, and we were talking about budget, plus $15 million or something, and it decided too good to be true, and it was too good to be true. But I came out, and I was, shortly after that, we're casting. I found Ezra Miller when he was 15, or he found me because he just kept coming. He turned up to I was staying in the Lower East Side with a friend of mine who was my lawyer as well at the Forward Building, and I was meant to meet him in a different day, and it was a Sunday, and he just turned up, and I was like, what are you doing here? And then I decided I was hanging out with him, and I thought, he really wanted this part, and he's so smart, and he read more than I had, and I thought it was quite well read. Although I wasn't highly educated or anything like that. So, but my dad liked reading, I liked reading, and so it kind of evolved from there. And then while we were prepping, I met all these amazing DPs. Like I met Ed Lackman. I met a guy that shot Star Wars. Can't remember his name. But it was like every great DP, and Ed Lackman came in. He looked like Willy Wonka with a cane. But I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then the financial crash of 2008 happened, and he said, we don't want to make anything apart from Twilight. Because that was a big franchise that someone had. And so I was like, oh God. And it's just such a downer when you've been that far into it, and it happens quite a lot. I'm sure a few of you guys are filmmakers. And I was like, do you know what, I need to make this film now. I've put all this work, and the script was like 120 pages or something. So I've got this friend, she's an animator, and she's pretty out there. She's an artist as well, a filmmaker. And she's like, let's go to I'm going to Stromboli, a volcano near Sicily. Do you want to come? And I was like, okay. So I go and I think, well, I'm going to go try and break the back of this thing, so I'm going to need to approach it definitely, because I'm not going to have the same amount of money. I'm going to need half it somehow. So I go through, I go to Naples, I'm meeting her there. I have the worst taxi rides in my life. I thought I was going to die. I was like, please just leave me by the side of the road. my bag goes missing with my computer and the script, and I turn up in Stromboli, this place called Genostra, and there's a guy called Mario with a donkey who doesn't help me with any of my cases. He just get the donkey up the hill, the case I did have. And so I'm climbing up this mountain, and he keeps saying it's 5 minutes, and I'm like, what do you mean? And I still got a piece of cactus in my finger from the dog climbing up there, still. And then I get to the top of this mountain, and I'm like, I need to pee, and I go to pee, and there's no door, and there's a window, and there's bits of the volcano coming in, you know, like it's like spitting things, it's big rocks. And I'm like, this is awesome. And then it just was just this mad, I was meant to be there for a week or 2 weeks, and I ended up staying for 6 weeks, and I learned how to free dive, because my friend was a free diver, and I felt like free diving for snails, could see snails because they were a delicacy. I would have disgusted that. But everybody liked them with parsley and lemon, so I had this tray that all these old women loved me because I go join some snails, you know. And I go, and so it was just like this. There was a wild dog there, so every time I climbed down the mountain, you couldn't forget your water or your food. You know, I was like, oh my god, I've got to watch. So it was like, I got so fit and could dive in the water and then avoiding the mad dog that was near the church and running a lot. That I don't know, something just there was anyway, I wrote it there. And I had to cut everything like it's a sprinkler sound, okay, that goes back in it. It was like an edit. I think I learned more about editing in this film than I ever learned in anything else. It taught me a lot, so I just got quite brutal with it, but it was hard, you know, to take something that was a certain length and had great scenes in it. And then, but I knew that if I didn't do that, I wasn't going to be able to make this movie. You know, sorry, that was a long answer.
Amazing. You know, as you're kind of getting into the editing, it's to like, was it you discovered it in the edit, or how did that kind of get together?
It was very much in the script, like, you know, I had to like. It was almost like I had to do shots to sound to shot to, and I was trying to piece it all together, so it's a real puzzle. But I like puzzles, and like I don't know, I don't know, I just really like puzzles and I like chess, and I just kind of had stripped it so back to this really economical thing. But obviously films are pretty organic, so things did change, like, or there was things that were nice that happened. And then Tilda was great because the markers were the haircuts, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so she was like, and then I remember we didn't even have time to shoot, we had 27 days or something. And so we thought, well, we'll shoot some stuff while we're doing the test, you know? And but they got her a really bad wig, you know? And she was brilliant, and she was shooting this scene where she just visits in prison and she throws up. And it was brilliant, it was so brilliantly acted, but this cheap wig, everyone's in their cheap seats for this, and I'm like, to say the language, he's like, don't get a cheap wig, whatever you do, don't get a cheap wig. Of course, it looks like a scarecrow, and she's trying to say something, and it's like the best performance for a really bad wig, so you can use it. And I was like, fuck, because we really needed that. That was extra stuff we needed. So it was a bit like that, but she was great because we just spoke all the time, and I wasn't even sure I was like, oh, maybe it's Catherine Keener, or, you know, something I love her, and I was thinking about someone that looks more, that you can make look more every day, you know, like, that she, you know, she'd blend in a bit more. But then I Tilda said, you're going to lunch with me, you know, and the first time I met Tilda Swinton, it was through her husband, who's an artist called John Byrne, and he wrote me this amazing letter after Ratcatcher, and I'm terrible at getting back to things because I'm always like, you start something and you're like, oh god, this is so moving, what you wrote to me, I don't know how to respond. And then, so you never send it back. John Berger wrote me a letter, I'll never get back to bloody John Berger. I mean, talk about a moron. So anyway, you know, I went to see one of his exhibitions, and she walked up to me, and she's Vivian Westwood, you know, those kinds of platform shoes. And she's already 6'4" or something. And she walked up to me, and I just looked up like, oh my god. And I was totally shitting myself. And she went, hi, you know, like, she gave me this big hug, and she went, hi, are you alright? You know, and I was like, I like her, you know, and she took her shoes off, and she gave me a kiss, you know, in the head, the forehead. And she said, "All right, work with you." And I went, "Okay." And then she said, when she heard about this, she went, "You're coming to have lunch with me." And I said, "Okay." And is that, I've got an option? She went, "No." And I said, "Okay." So we go to lunch, and she goes, "I'm going to be Eva, right?" And I went, "Well, I don't know, tell I'm not sure yet. Like, maybe you're too extraordinary." And she goes, "That's why it's going to be brilliant, because I'll stand out. Everybody will notice me. I can't get away from myself." And I went, "That's a good point." And that's it.
I love to talk about color. Totally switching gears. Which I'm sure you get asked about a lot from all your films, and I think here it's used perhaps most powerful. Red. So, how did you come to this idea that red was going to kind of tell the story throughout the entire film?
Well, actually, it was in the novel. She gets paint thrown over her house, you know, and I can't remember if it's red paint or not. Might be, but I thought there was something about scrubbing and trying to get rid of the, you know, like Lady Macbeth, I guess. And I think Tilda really took that to heart as well, you know, that you can never really get rid of this stain, you know, and so that kind of came into it. But then when I made the movie and it went to Canada, it was like, "What's your thing with red?" And red blood is so obvious. And I'm like, "Oh, fuck off," you know. I didn't mean that, you know. Somehow it became red and blue and car lights. You know, just when we're filming, sometimes a film just kind of appears towards you. It's like, I did a deck, like a visual deck for a film I've been trying to make for a few years. And for some reason it ended up green and bits of red and white, you know, like, and I was like, "What the hell's going on? This is all got a pattern." And it just like, I don't know, I think things just kind of like and it's set in the Arctic, so, you know, anyway. So that's another story. But I honestly, you know, it just started to come, it came from that, it came from this idea that no matter how much she scrubs it, it's under her fingernails, it's part, you know, like she can't really get rid of her own guilt, you know.
All your films really connect to my sense of touch. And I think that you're one of the great tactile filmmakers. And I'm just curious how you, like in the chaos of a film shoot, like kind of get these small moments like the red paint in her hair or like the fingernail. Like, how do you, are you always looking for these moments? Is that how you're often working?
Well, it's funny because I studied as a photographer, and then when some of my friends from school, when I did my degree in photography, see my films, they'll say, "Oh, that looks like your pictures," you know. So I think some of it is about looking like, you know, because when I went to film school, I didn't know anything about film. I mean, I'd been brought up with great movies, but they were Hollywood movies from the Golden Era and Hitchcock, and I remember watching Imitation of Life by Douglas Sirk about 20 million times with my mum, and crying every time, and just the colours and everything as well. And just seeing these great movies, but they were pretty working class. I mean, they would tell you the story of the film while they were watching it. They're like, "And this is going to happen. Did you see what she did to you?" And I was like, "Oh, shut up," you know. Watch it. Do you know what I mean? Like, my dad would be watching football, so I couldn't watch the Saturday matinee, which made me hate football for the rest of my life. Only just any football, really. So, because I was like, he was playing the radio, playing Celtic in the kitchen, the television in the kitchen played Celtic, the game, the football game, and then it was a Saturday matinee, every television played Celtic, and we're out of sync. Like, so the football was out of sync, it was like driving me nuts, and I want to watch this really good Western that's on or something. Because it's good telly in the UK, you know, but there was at that time. And so I don't know, just like, I started just looking like details is one of the things I think most photographers are always observing details and looking for things that tell you visually about a character. And so I think that comes from him.
And I'm curious how you, if you had a different approach directing each of your actors, because Tilda's very much the perspective of the film, and I think each of the other characters are how she envisions them in these memories. Did that translate to a different approach in how you handled like John C. Reilly and that sort of thing?
Well, I've worked a lot with kids in that catcher, so I felt quite confident. We cast quite a long time. There was a lot. I think one of who's the guy? Who's the guy that's the kid that's in Home Alone? Was it? Yeah, one of the. It might have being the lovely one in Succession, one of the brothers came in and he was great. So I saw Hugh Kevin's, I saw Henry Hopper, who was Dennis's son, but he was like Dennis, he was too, you know, he was too, you know, like, I don't know, like his body was alive, whereas I felt Kevin was very control. And then Ezra came in and like, I remember the first time getting Ezra and Tilda together and they sort of looked at each other and they looked away like, and just like us, and I got this brilliant still where they looked exactly the same in profile and they had a similar haircut, but they were looking away. I was like, she doesn't like him, you know? And I thought, that's it. And plus the haircuts. So, and then we kept, what with Ezra was brilliant is he came and saw all the kids. So while they were performing, he would observe them and he would help them, and it was nice. Because the really, the kids were all wonderful. And Jasper Newell, the middle kids, he said to me at the time, I think he was about 7 or 8, he said, I want to tell stories, I want to make this, and I want to do that, and he'd write these stories, and then he ended up as becoming a filmmaker, so we're still in touch, and he's like, I'm a filmmaker, and I'm like, I do that, you know. And then Rocky Doer, who was the tiny one, you know, who does the ball, he was amazing, he was like the best actor I ever worked with. I mean, honestly, it was like Joaquin Phoenix times a million, you know. He was like, he literally just did exactly what I was like, can you do that? And he's like, alright. He never said a word, he was just like, okay. And he had this little leather jacket. And then the only time he got upset is when we put the diaper on, and he went, I'm too big for a diaper. And I went, oh, and he looked like he was about to burst into tears, and then Ezra came up to him and was like, sorry, okay, you know, like, but that was the only time that kid complained. Mostly just his lack of performance, we tell him what to do, and him going, and his leather jacket at 4 or 3, I was like, I'm going to do real, you know?
I'm curious what sort of direction you gave to John C. Reilly, because he's such a naturalistic actor in this film, and so much of his dialogue seems almost like under his breath, like in the sense that when dad talks to children, he's kind of more talking to himself.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a lovely observation. But I always knew I wanted John. I was like, he's so affable, he's so lovable, and Franklin had that optimistic vibe, you know, like that everything's going to be alright, and it's a real sort of delusional thing as well. But, you know, like he can't see any darkness in him, you know, like what Eva sees, and you know, that makes her question herself as well, what her partner. So no, it's a real pleasure working with John. I mean, considering it's such a dark film, it was probably the best shoot I'd ever had. I mean, we were all, I was cooking every night. John C. Reilly came round for his dinner. We had a jam, you know. We dressed up in all the clothes that were in the wardrobe of this weird house I was in. Like ski gear, like Ralph Lauren from the 1970s, because I ran out of clothes, you know. So I think they'd like got an insurance job in that, because I was wearing these shirts that were all left there. But we just were all together, and John hired a boat, right, for a boat trip for the last weekend, and it rains and there's a big storm, and so we all ate fish and chips by the sea. And it just was one of those lovely shoots. And even the union guys liked me, Sal, the Italian union guy, I picked his card on the first day, and I was a maid woman. They gave me their steak from their barbecue, because their craft services was so shit. And I was like, I'm just hanging out with the union, you know, like this, and then one of them was an opera singer, and he picked my mum up from the airport and was singing opera to her in the car, and she was crying, and I was like, wow. And then James McGarvey, like, you know, he's such a lovely guy, and he was like swimming with all the women in the pool, my mum included, naked on the last night, like Jack Nicholson or something. And I was like, what's with you? He's eating my good looking pastry. Got charisma, man. I was there, I was sleeping. But it just was like a gorgeous shoot. I remember one of the best things ever happened to me, because it was like white Connecticut, super waspy. Like my husband at the time had went for a walking, he looked like Mountain Man with a beard, he was a musician. And then Ezra just got his head shaved for the end. And I bought him this coat, an army coat, like a big collar, he looked like a Nazi, you know. He went for a walk in the woods, and the police came to the door, you know, because all the neighbours had called, and And we had to show a photograph of John C. Reilly that was stuck behind the door going, he's in it, it's a film, you know? So it was like, who are these two weirdos walking the woods, are they going to kill us or something? So it was a predominantly white kind of crew as well, apart from there was this one black guy that was helping. He was like sweeping up and you know, you were like, oh but this is typical. But I just ended up like staying one night and because I was thinking about the shots, we didn't have a lot of time to shoot, and I wanted to stay in the house after everyone left, and it was just me and him. And I'm sitting thinking about my shots, and suddenly there was a chair with wheels on it, and it sort of moved across the room, and we both looked at each other like, oh my god, let's get out of here. You know, this is freaky, this house, because it was a freaky house. It was like, well, who lives here? It's huge. And it has a Pac-Man, yeah, you know, one of the old Pac-Man games. And I was like, I really wanted that Pac-Man. I was looking into getting it shipped and someone would get the Pac-Man. I was so pissed off. I was like, I'm the director, I should get the Pac-Man. And I've always regretted that. But me and this guy just looked at each other and we just started laughing. We were like, what the hell's going on here? This place is it's really creepy. And he goes, I don't know what you're making. He never read the script. He goes, but I can't wait to see the next part. I'm really enjoying it. It's really fascinating. And I was like, just me and this dude who was working as a runner, and he said he was observing the film as it went along, because we were doing it in chronological order, and he was like, this is awesome. And I was like, oh man, I love you, like the truth. And I was like, he makes me, because I was feeling kind of down that night, and I thought, that's one of the best things that ever happened to me in a film. He didn't need to say that, he didn't need, you know, he could have just done what he's doing, and it was just me and him, and it was like, it's a little boost, you know, when I was feeling like, oh my god, what the hell am I doing tomorrow? I have no idea, you know. So, which you often do as a director, you know, lots of sleepless nights and stuff, where you're really hoping, you're just constantly thinking about it, you know.
Wow, it's really good to know you.
I think, you know what, I think that's why. I think it was so intense that we ended up, I mean, Seamus McGarvey, the DP, still cooks I directed the cooking as well, like, you do the chicken, you do the lettuce, I do the, so I didn't do it, but and Seamus McGarvey still uses my recipes to chat up women, you know. I was like, he goes, I'll do my chicken dish tonight that you taught me, and I'm like, right, okay, I'll be good. I got married, so I think he cooked her the chicken. So it was really quite a beautiful experience, and I think it's because we all did hang out. It's not often you hang out in a film like that, you get home at the end of the day and never see each other ever again, probably most of the time. You know, it's so intense, but this was just, we were all in it was like being in a band.
Did everyone kind of have this immediate connection, both on the crew and in your cast, like to these anxieties that are in the film? I mean, I'm not a parent, but it's like right when you start watching, you're like, oh yeah, that's terrifying, in the sense that not necessarily you're going to be afraid your child is going to be a murderer, but you are responsible for everything that they do. And I don't mean to make this too personal of a question, but was that kind of what drew you to it? And I think that's something universal. Right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think drew me to it was that it was one of those unspoken, even though, you know, many things are spoken about in literature and stuff like that, it's not often, you're meant to be the mother, you know, and this was like, we're often no great mothers, you're always feeling guilty, you're always questioning yourself. I haven't had a baby before then, I've got a 9-year-old now, and it's so bloody hard. It's like every sort of aspect of, and she's gorgeous and she never cries, and she's definitely not a Kevin type, you know, baby, you know. But I did have, like, I knew this couple, they were the loveliest couple, and they had a baby that just screamed the place down for some reason. And she phoned me one night, she goes, I want you to throw me out the window. I really want you to throw me out the window. And I was like, no, don't, better not throw your baby out the window. But they were like really lovely, most loving parents. So you just like, some babies have characteristics, you know, like, but you wonder what you've done, you know, you often feel God's you should have done that different. And I might have made the film differently, you know, a wee bit more from Kevin's point of view. Like, it's funny, I was asked to do an opera, would I like to do an opera? And I said, why don't we need to talk about Kevin as an opera? And we'll Kevin's point of view in this as well, do you know what I mean? So maybe I'll still do that. I think it'd be awesome.
I do too. Yeah. Before we open up up to the audience, I want to talk about Johnny Greenwood. I mean, his score is incredible. I mean, and it weaves together so effortlessly between your sound design and the soundtrack. So how did you work with that?
Well, he's a lovely, he's very modest, Johnny. He doesn't he kind of comes in and he just listens and he doesn't give you music like prescribed to the screen. It's like a feeling, So Joe B and I, the editor, would feel we were getting Christmas presents. It's like Johnny sent some music, and it's like 40 minutes long. And I was always real paranoid. I'd lose my computer because I'd ordered Johnny Greenwood original music on it. You know what I mean? I was like, shit, I need to get this insured or something. And like we're using, and still some of these pieces of music I didn't use. They were so delicate and not like, I had to listen to the whole piece and find the right bit, and that was quite interesting. And then we got Lou Fanning, who was she played. I was interested in string instruments. Like I just was watching a documentary and then was looking at something on YouTube, and suddenly this Chinese musician who played the pipa popped up, and she was, and I was married to a musician at the time, and he was telling me on some different instruments and stuff. And she was just awesome, and so I got in touch with her, and the track Ambush it's been passed down from generations. It's a very old track, it's like, it's not been written down. And so this woman plays like Jacqueline Dupre, plays the cello, and she came to Johnny Greenwood's studio, but she didn't give a shit. She didn't know who Radiohead is. She's like, Radiohead, I don't know. I'm like, who are they, And she walks into this analog studio, and he set up a mic and the chair, so it's all at the right height. And she's like, no, move that, get that here, blah, blah, blah. And he goes and makes her a cup of tea, and she does. And she just plays, and it was so awesome seeing these two musicians together, and him just know that she had her way of doing it. And he's so respectful, and then I worked with him again, you were never really here, and it was a really similar, probably more music. I think I maybe, because I was married to a musician at the time, we were using a lot of soundtracks, and I had to back it off a bit. But you look at every film, you see something different all the time. And one film I'm doing now is more needle drops, and then another film I want to do more score. So, and then sometimes when I first started making films, I was like, I want to use music unless you hear it, like, very dogmatic. Like it's like very like the Dogma style, like a wee gas hand or something. That was all stuff that was recorded at a real party. But I like when Morgan Caller or something like that, she had that playing, and most of all the tracks we used were already, we had them, we were playing them while we were shooting, and Sam was listening to it. So it depends on the approach and stuff. But he's just a genius, and he's very modest man. It's not like there's no ego that comes into it, and I just really love his way of working. And he loves instruments. He loves it's really like dub, and I'm really like dub. He's got a real encyclopedic knowledge of music, but different type, not just something you think someone from Radiohead would like.
Let's turn it over to the audience here.
It depends.
Did everyone hear the question?
Sorry.
The question is, when she gets to set, how much kind of room for improv is there with your DP and the blocking, and are you kind of restructuring how you're going to shoot this scene when you get there?
Sometimes it depends. But I always when I hear these filmmakers that it's 70 days to shoot, I'm like, you bastard! Did you get that? I was in 24 days or 20. Well, no, I'm under 30 days, right? And that catch was longer, but shoots used to be a bit longer. So something like we were never really here. I remember I just walked up, put the camera on. I did it myself. I kind of drove up with the car, put the tripod up, put the camera on the tripod, pointed it where I wanted it, and I went, action. And working face, like, what the fuck? And the sound man is like running, because the first days normally, like, you just get into your vibe, so it's about 2 hours before you start and everything. But it just set the pace for the film. It was just like, right, this is going to be main lean fighting machine, because we don't have any time, we've got 160 locations, and it's just it set a really good pace, and he just laughed, and it was great, like, because he hates hanging about, he doesn't like trailers, he doesn't want drivers, he doesn't like any of that bullshit. So he just wants to go and work and push things, so it was wonderful working with him. I loved working with him. And we were just really kindred spirits, but when I first met him, I was totally intimidated by him. I was like, do do you use your left hand or your right hand when you do something? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, God, it's fucking crazy. He's turned up 7 weeks before the shoot. You know? But it depends on the actor. Then with something like Tilda, see the scene in Red, the weird one where she goes when she's kind of, thank God we have 5D in this shoot because they got the cheapest everything in this film, yeah? It was like, welcome to the cheap seats, you know, and everything broke. So the generator broke one night, we're in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut, and I was like, look, we just need to shoot this, like, we're not going to get a second go. And it was a Halloween scene. And luckily I had a 5D that had been taken to set every day, like I was recording the range, it was raining and it was beautiful and we used on it in the credits. And so I was just testing this camera, and James had a 5D, so we just shot it in a 5D, so thank God for the 5D. And then it was good in intimate situations like sex scenes and stuff, but there was one night she was just, Tilda went into a mad trance and started, she was like a silent movie actress, and I'm like, just shoot this, let's just shoot it, 5D. And that's a lot of that's in it, you know, so I think it's going with what's, if someone's in a performance, and the same as Samantha Morton, like, I had a producer come up to me, he's going, are you going to cut? When are you going to cut? And I'm like, I'm not cutting, shut up. He's like, but you're running through Max and film stock, that's 10 minutes, and I'm like, shut up. Because she was amazing, and we didn't go over the ratio, but I didn't want to cut because Sam was in a zone. Tilda was in a zone, so does Joaquin and John, and all the actors I worked with. And then one time in Kevin as well, because we had a nice line producer, but he was like, there was another producer who could make the decisions in England. That's not good when you're making a film, because it was the middle of the night in England, and we were on set, and it was the last scene. I'd had like an hour to shoot it. I was like, how am I going to do this? And I didn't want to shoot it particularly with just reverses, and we did, and I was like, oh, I don't know how I've done it this way. But I just had to go for it. And Ezra was really on fire, and so was she, and he said to me, we have to take the lunch break, and he said, please don't take the lunch, can we just do it? So I'm talking to the line producer saying, you have to take a penalty, and he's like, oh, I don't know what to do, I need to call England. I said, but it's the middle of the night in England. And he's like, but there'll be a penalty, and I'm like, fuck the penalty, I'll pay the penalty, take it out of my wages, just let's do this, it's the final scene. Anyway, by the time he kind of went, I don't know, and he's going, it was already everyone went to lunch. And so poor Bobby was running around me, I was so mad. I walked around my trailer, he followed me, and I just walked in circles around my trailer about 20 times. And it was like Buster Keaton or something. And he's following me, then he comes up and he goes, and he's going to say something, I just slammed the trailer door in his face. And I just was just so mad about it, so I was like, look, for 10 grand, this is the end of the scene. I would have paid it in my wages, like, this kid's really on fire, you know. But that was just that whole thing where you don't have a producer there, you know, and that can be really hard. Sometimes another person kind of made the decision, so it wasn't his fault. But you get, you know, you have to, I think one thing you've got to do is observe what's going on in the moment. That if you can do that, but prep's the most important. Prep's horrible. I hate prep. It's a nightmare. You want to die. You're like, oh no, this is going to be so shit. You're like, oh no, I see it's all crumbling before your eyes. And then, you know, it's just, I'm going to eat prep right now, I'm alright again. I hate and getting sweats at night and stuff. And so it's just like, but prep's everything. If you prep it well, then you get the room, you look and observe and see if there's something better that's happening now. And also don't go, I remember with Ratcatcher, it was all like, oh, it's a lovely hot summer in Glasgow, which never happens. But they asked me, like, the summers were better than the summer we got. It rained every day, and I was like, how are we going to shoot this? And I just had to go for it. And like the kids are standing in the rain, and insurance company are going, hurry up, you're behind. And I'm like, there's no weather cover, which one are you doing these kids? And it wasn't like, summers in Glasgow are like, you know, it's basically like being in Iceland or something. It was like, I think it was hailstones. At one point, it was like ice, you know? And I'm like, I can't put these kids in t-shirts out. But they didn't give a shit, they just wanted me to be faster, you know? So, poor kids, you know, like, but anyway, it was a wonderful experience that was a horrible film to make, because it was my first feature. And we all felt very under pressure and like really naive. But yeah, I just think, you know, if you can be in, because so many times in Ratcatcher, one thing I noticed is like they were doing something much better than I'd ever wrote in between takes. And you were like, oh man. So you keep your eyes peeled, you know, and often we shot things where I was going, just roll, just roll. And my ex-boyfriend actually shot, he's a great cameraman called Tom Tynans, he's a brilliant writer as well. And he shot You Were Never Really Here, but he's Mr. Precision. He was in Mensa when he was 5. I hated him when I met him. I was like, oh, this guy's so annoying. And we ended up going out with each other for 7 years. And it's like, but there was times when You Were Never Really Here where we were just shooting in New York and Joaquin just looked like a bum and a construction guy and no one knew it was him and no one cared. And we just got such great sound and there was some great images and he, because of the lighting being the exposure, I'm like, turn over. I'm sorry, say it, don't swear, but like, honestly, it was pissing me off. I was like, and I started going to the camera and I just pushed him out the way and started shooting stuff, you know, like, I was like, Tom, it doesn't matter if it's always perfect, you know, like, because he's Mr. Technical, but he's brilliant, but we kind of have a love-hate relationship that's on to this day.
Yeah, see you right there.
Quite difficult. I think with casting kids, it's like, I learned a lot of Matt actually because I saw a lot of kids, I saw thousands, you know, and then it was like, of course, it's always the kid that doesn't want to be in the film and comes in with someone else that you cast, you know. There wasn't any really pushing parents. Meet the parents, that's big, that was a big lesson I had in this. Because I came to LA to do some casting, and I've never cast in LA. And then I walked through the room, they were like doing, you know, the kids were waiting, and then there was all the mums and dads going, say it like this, and go, oh, you know, like project it, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what the hell, this is horrible, it's like torture, you know, and I never cast any kids out of LA, because they all came in like very rote and very down pat, and like, because they were coached, you know. And I actually wanted to make a documentary about it. I was like, this is really interesting. Maybe this is more interesting than my film. So just like a cast in LA, especially kids, so the mum and dad's like, come on, you know, and pushing parents. But one thing did happen where the little girl who actually, she was an amazing cast. When we found her, she was so natural. But I think her parents did end up coaching her and told her all the lines and got her down. And so when we came to shoot it, and it was one of the shoots where there's no time, she just started sounding very robotic. And me and Tilda were like tearing our hair out, and I'm like, Tilda, we need to change it. Like, you'll like, I read like 2 minutes to do it. We're like, Ashley that day kept burping in your face and she had really bad breath, and I was like, God, the kid's like, I don't know, she's sick or something, you know, like, and I actually felt a bit vulnerable because she didn't know the lines about her parents and taught her that. But I tried to just make her feel alright. And I said, say it like this, no, I just said, no, say a line like this. I like, you know, just anything. What was your response to this? Like, you know, so Tilda helped a lot. She just said something different, and it threw her, and then she couldn't come back with a down pat response. So that's horrible when if you get a kid that's amazing, and then somebody's coached them. They think for the kids, you know. But it's a good idea to really sit and talk to their parents and make sure the parents are cool as well, you know, like they're alright and stuff. But with Ratcatcher or something like that, as with this, you don't give them the script, you don't give a kid the script. And that's why it's bad the parents have the script because they read the script. What I do is I do a day-to-day things. They don't know what they're doing, and it's exciting, and it's more fresh, and it's not boring. Like, everybody just wants to, like, it's a game, you know? And I think never patronising the kid and go, you know, like, I just talk to a kid like I would talk to anyone else. And you know, it's funny in Ratcatcher because I cast these kids out of juvie, like the gang in it, and they were lovely kids. So they all came from broken homes. A lot of them were really smart, and they had this drama teacher that was amazing. But you couldn't direct these kids by going, "Can you just move over there?" You know, I was literally like, hey, they were like a kind of rocky sponge. I didn't even know where half of them were. I was like, "Come on, get here now!" You know, I'm just. And I turned around screaming at these kids, and there's the bond, the insurance bond, and the exec producer, and I'm like, "Come on, you get here right now!" You know, like I'm swearing a lot to these 14-year-olds, but that's how they thought, that's how you communicated with these kids, because that's what they knew, you know what I mean? And I grew up in Glasgow, and that you know, but they were all just talking about what the money, they were going, let's back up one, so I'm going to get a Vespa when I finish this, and I'm getting this, $6. Do you know what I mean? So it was, the kids actually got me through Ratcatcher because they were brilliant, you know, they were such a laugh. And I actually had this photograph because I was only 27 when I made that catcher, and I look like a kid as well, and I'm with foreign kids, and it looks like a school picture. And it's like one of my favourite pictures from filming. So, no, I just think it's to do with like, you've got to be smart. And the other thing is like about casting, the other thing is that I've learned the hard way. Don't cast anyone without seeing them together with someone that you think you should be in a relationship with. And I learned that a bit from Sam Morton. She said that she'd been in this movie and the actor was a good actor, a big actor, and they just didn't hit it off. They didn't hit it off at all. And you can tell in the film they might be in love or something, and you're like, well, these people hate each other. And so you have to, and I did it once, and the two actors were good actors, but they were like in a different universe, and they're like in a different planet. I was like, oh my god, this isn't working. I had to think on my feet and reconfigure and change the story a bit because it just didn't work. And I'm not like, I don't know how you all get it, you know. I've been friends with Jonathan Glazer. He always gets a million days, you know. So I hate to take so I hate getting to work with him and say how does he do that, you know. Because he's 70 or 80 days, and you know the guy, the Greek director who did Poor Things, they always get loads of time hours. And I never get to my shoots. I've never been shot. I think I've never done pickups either. So I always know, but it's kind of good because it's really good pants and stuff, you know. But you have to, in that case, especially because like in our relationships, just because you cast someone good doesn't mean it's going to work in the same way as a different actor. Do you see what I mean? So, because sometimes just people don't buy, you know. Because I've had a kid and you sort of, it's a different kind of movie because this is Eva's movie, really, you know. But it made me want to make Kevin's movie, you know, like, or Aero more in elements, like, you know, because that's just quite dark looks and you go back in. I didn't want you to go too much that way, you know, like, I even backed off the mic more. It's just subtlety, you know, it's just about, the more you direct, the more you're like, you know, you can see things different. All films are so different. When I watch my films back, I'm like, oh my god, I did that, and I go, wow, that's cool. You're quite good then, you know, 25 years ago, you know. And it's, you know, your first film's always kind of an imprint in a way. Like, even if you do some quite different work, it's like, it's special, you know. But yeah, I think you always watch your films and you think how you would do them differently. Like, if you see them, I didn't watch any of my films for years. I saw Ratcatcher came on the telly and I was like, this is quite good, you know. I watched it like a million times in the edits, I didn't want to see it again, you know. And then I watched Morgan Keller, that was special because I watched that about just after COVID and it was a young audience. And the film's quite old, it's like 20 years old. And they thought it was a comedy and I was like, yes, that's what I meant. They were laughing and at the time when he started, the first scenes were taken quite seriously. It was bonkers, Morgan's mad, you know. And it was about female friendship before there was anything was, I mean, it was a bit ahead of its time, and I wrote it with this wonderful woman called Diana Donini, who was an animator and a kind of surrealist. And, you know, she would have things in her animation like a donkey walks through the background, or the what's the bike race in France, the Prix de, you know, the Tour de France. The Tour de France would just go past in her animation. It was a big dramatic scene in the Tour de France would be in the background or something like that. She was so cool. And I don't know, I just like, you know, I think we thought of her as a character in a Western or something, you know, like the silent character, and then she's a mystery. But when we made it, they were like, where's the lesbian sex, and the two girls together and all that stuff, and like, the financiers hated it, they totally dumped the movie. I had to get someone else to put the posters out, because I said, I didn't like the poster in an interview, and the guy was so mad at me that he pulled it. I was like, I'll shut my mouth from now on, and just shut up, you big chap, you know. But yeah, like getting back to the question, yeah, you look at every movie back and you go, you're always still working it out. You're still working at that movie, and then you're working at the next one.
Well, we're about to watch You Were Never Really Here. But